Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18 is about a day away or so, or maybe out by the time you're watching this video. But I wanted to prepare you to update if you're updating from iOS 17, iOS 16, or maybe even iOS 18 betas. So I thought I'd walk you through the steps for peace of mind to prepare to update. Now, the first thing is supported devices of iOS 18 are the same as they were last year with iOS 17. That means iPhone SE second generation, iPhone XR, XS, XS Max, all the way up to the latest iPhone 16 and 16 Pro models. So if you have one of those devices, you'll actually be able to get iOS 18, and you will get a majority of the updates. Of course, Apple Intelligence is coming later on. That's not launching on the same day as iOS 18, probably in October, and will continue to get updates all the way through 2025 or so. So that particular update, iOS 18.1, unfortunately is just on the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max and iPhone 16 models, but iOS 18 supports everything that iOS 17 does. Now that doesn't mean iOS 18.1 won't release to older devices, it just means Apple Intelligence features included in that update won't launch on those devices, other than the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max and newer. Now, if you're on an iOS 18 beta or iOS 18.1 betas, I'll talk about what you need to do later toward the end of the video. But this is releasing alongside many other updates with iPadOS 18, watchOS 11, tvOS 18, HomePodOS 18, macOS 15, and visionOS 2.0. Apple is also giving you the option to stay on iOS 17 with a release of iOS 17.7 and iPadOS 17.7. So if you don't want to upgrade to iOS 18, you don't have to. You can wait for them maybe to update it a little bit more, maybe work out some additional bugs, but it is pretty stable to begin with. Now, the first step I would recommend is a backup. Now, you shouldn't necessarily need the backup in order to install iOS 18, but if you do have an issue while it's installing, maybe there's a crash or something else happens, at least you have your backup and your data is safe and secure along with all of your information, photos, and more. Now, in order to do a backup, you can do that a couple different ways. One way is to connect to a Mac or Windows computer, just physically plug it in, and then use iTunes on Windows or Finder on Mac to do a backup. If you want to use that method, you can, or if you have enough iCloud storage, you can actually do a backup that way. Now, if you're getting an iPhone 16, whether that's the 16, 16 Plus, 16 Pro, or 16 Pro Max, you can actually get a little additional storage to prepare for that update. So you may already see that in your settings when it's time to upgrade if you've pre-ordered. However, if you want to update using iCloud, go into your settings, tap your name at the top, scroll down to iCloud, and you'll see your storage. And then if you scroll down further, you'll see iCloud Backups. Go into iCloud Backups, turn it on if it isn't on already, and then tap Start Backup. You can see I started it more recently, and I have about 6 minutes remaining. You can also back up over cellular if you want to do that, or just let it back up on Wi-Fi if you have a Wi-Fi connection. Then below that, you can see all of your devices that are backed up on iCloud. Now, if we go back, this is actually backing up a lot of different information. So for example, I have it turned on for iCloud Photos, iCloud Drive, Mail. If we go to Show All, this is how you know everything's being backed up. If you have apps using iCloud, everything that's turned on here is going to be backed up. So everything from photos to messages in iCloud to contacts, reminders, fitness, home, everything in all of these apps is going to have a backup. WhatsApp on its own should actually have a backup, but if you have iCloud turned on, that will back up as well. So just make sure you have everything backed up, then you're good to go. I wouldn't really worry about it, but it is something that from time to time happens when people install updates. The next thing you'll need to do is make sure you have enough storage available. Typically, if you have a newer phone, a phone with a lot of storage, then you wouldn't have to worry about it too much. But under General, and then iPhone storage, you can see your storage available. Now, this is an iPhone with 128 gigabytes of storage, and I'm using 82.36 gigabytes of that. If I need additional space in order to install the update, it will let me know, but typically you'll need about 10 gigabytes or so. And if you don't have 10 gigabytes free, again, go into your storage and you can follow some of the recommendations to offload unused apps. It says I can actually save 22.69 gigabytes just by enabling this. So I'll go ahead and enable it, and then it will take some time and it will free up all of that storage space. You can also see everything else below that. So if you want to delete some additional things, you can go into those, maybe delete the app altogether and free up some storage. Below that, you'll see iOS is actually taking up 11.47 gigabytes. So typically anywhere between 6 to 10 gigabytes, I say. Make sure you have that free, and you should be good to go as far as having enough storage to install the next update. Now, if you're having issues with your phone, whether that's network issues or just some other things, sometimes resetting settings helps with that. And when you reset your settings, it does not delete any of your data, with the exception of some of your cards and wallet where you'd have to add those again and a few other things. If we go into General under our settings, scroll to the bottom, you'll see here it says Transfer or Reset iPhone. Within Transfer or Reset iPhone, if we go to Reset, you'll actually see it says Reset All Settings, Reset Network Settings, and then you could remove your eSIMs, reset keyboard, home screen layout, location, and privacy. If you reset all, you could do that. Go ahead and put in your passcode, and it will warn you multiple times. Before we reset, it says this will reset all settings of your Apple Pay cards, keys, and passes will be removed. No data or media will be deleted. So if that's something that you have backed up or you don't use keys or Apple cards, then you can reset those settings, and sometimes that will actually help resolve any issues. You could also do the same for network settings as well separately. So it's up to you. You don't necessarily have to do this, but that's something if you're having some odd bugs that just haven't gone away and haven't been fixed with updates, typically with network settings, sometimes that helps, but that's sort of an extreme measure if you need to do that. Now, when it comes to the overall battery, I would recommend that you have at least 50% battery before you install the update. Now, you won't have to do that. Apple will allow you to install the update as long as you're above about 20% battery. If you're below that, you'll typically have to plug in your phone just to make sure there's no issues installing and you have enough reserve power to have that installed without causing a problem. So typically I would say around 50% or just close to that, and you'll be good to go as far as installing the update, as it will take time to download depending on your internet connection and will take quite a while to install as it's a pretty significant update. Now, there's a couple different methods to install an update, and many people ask me which method is best. Over the air, meaning going to Settings, going to General, and then Software Update, or should you install from a computer? Typically over the air is 100% fine. I do that all the time without issue. If you're having problems or you just want to make sure there's no additional issues, you could use a computer, but normally I would only do that if you were having issues, just like I would recommend resetting settings only if you have issues. Otherwise, I would just sort of install it here. If you have a good Wi-Fi connection, it will download and install on its own. Now, if you're on a beta, maybe you're on iOS 18 RC or release candidate, well, that's typically the final version released to the public. And if Apple doesn't update it on the release date, you'll already have it just early. If there is an update, all you need to do to install that is typically go into your settings, go to General, then Software Update. Make sure your beta updates are off, and if there is a new build for it, you'll actually see it here. So if you want to stop receiving future betas or developer betas, just turn this off, and once the public version is out, if there is a new build, you'll have it here, but if there isn't, you just already have it. You're already on the final build if it's the same as the RC. We don't know that until it releases to the public, though. Now, this year was a little different in that we had iOS 18.1 at the same time. Now, unfortunately, if you're already on iOS 18.1, you will not get iOS 18 as you're on a newer version. Unless they do something different, you won't actually have that. So again, you can turn off your beta updates, but there's no easy way to downgrade to iOS 18 from 18.1 without doing it manually unless they introduce a new method that we're not aware of. So typically, wait for iOS 18.1 Beta 4 or whatever the next version is when you're watching this, and you can install that. When iOS 18.1 comes out to the public, then you can turn off the beta updates, and if there's a final build after the RC, well, then you'll just get it. So that's how you can install those updates. So I'd love to hear from you which version you're actually running. Are you on iOS 17 waiting to update to iOS 18, or are you already on the iOS 18 RC or 18.1 betas? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.